Confused by modern dating terms?
Master the slang with Speed Mingle.
Usually, when we talk about a medical diagnosis, there's this expectation of, absolute precision.
Oh, totally. Like, you want it to be exact.
Right. You think of something like engineering. Like, you break your arm, you go to the hospital, the x-ray shows that jagged white line on the screen, and the doctor just points at it and says, there it is. That's the problem.
Yeah, it's binary. Like, the bone is either broken or it's not broken. It's this incredibly clean, objective reality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's something deeply comforting about that, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
We like our problems to be visible, right? To be easily categorized and, treated with a standard protocol.
You want the instruction manual.
Yes. But then you take a step into the modern world of human connection, specifically the whole digital online courtship ecosystem, and suddenly that pristine x-ray machine is just...
It's completely shattered.
Completely. We're looking at a diagnostic landscape that is totally murky. I'm Zach.
And I'm Alice. And today we're looking at why 71% of singles have completely evacuated dating apps.
Which is a staggering number.
It's huge. They are being driven out by this psychological landscape where the injuries are invisible, and the language we use to describe them is changing, like, almost weekly at this point. Welcome to this deep dive.
Yes, welcome. Today, we are officially kicking off the 21st Century Dating Decoded segment, specifically highlighting the Speed Mingle's dating slang of the week.
I love this segment.
It's going to be a good one. Our mission for you today is simple, but we believe it's absolutely crucial. We are unpacking the modern dating confidence crisis.
Right, which is so prevalent right now.
Oh, it's everywhere. And we are shining a massive high-beam spotlight on this highly opportunistic, really dark arts behavior known as vulturing.
Vulturing, yes.
Yeah.
The digital scavengers of modern romance.
Exactly. We want to arm you with the vocabulary and the underlying psychological insights you actually need to navigate this digital landscape, safely, confidently, and honestly, with your sanity fully intact.
Because it's a jungle out there, for sure.
It really is.
And to map this out, we are pulling from a highly robust stack of sources today.
Really good stuff today.
Yeah, we're diving deep into the Badoo Dating Confidence Report. We're extracting the latest behavioral terminology from Psychology Today's modern dating lexicon. And we're looking at these brilliant analytical frameworks from top relationship coaches.
Like Ekta Dixit and Sheetal Shaparia.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And Persia Lawson. Plus, we are integrating some exclusive field research and conceptual solutions straight from Speed Mingles.
So we kind of have to start by looking at the water we're all swimming in, right?
Then the scene.
Right, because before we even get to the specific toxic behaviors, before we even define what a vulture actually is, we have to look at the fragile ecosystem where these scavengers are, currently thriving.
Which is pretty fragile, right?
Oh, it's incredibly fragile. Right now, we are looking at a digital dating world with over 366 million users globally.
Wow. 366 million.
Just let that number sink in. If you put them all in one place, that is a population larger than the entire United States.
That's insane to think about.
And they're all swiping, liking, filtering, and messaging simultaneously.
It's a staggering metric. I mean, truly. And logically, you would think that with a talent pool that massive, people would feel incredibly optimistic, right?
I would think so. It's a numbers game, right?
Exactly. You have access to hundreds of millions of potential connections right in your pocket. But the Badoo Dating Confidence Report paints a deeply systemic, almost grim crisis across this entire digital landscape.
Yeah, the numbers are not great.
No, they aren't. Currently, 19% of daters report their confidence is at an all-time historic low.
Wow.
And a full quarter of users say they struggle to even put themselves out there at all anymore.
A quarter. Just paralyzed.
Yeah, just totally frozen.
Yeah.
But the statistic that truly stops you in your tracks is the one I mentioned earlier in the intro.
The 71%.
Yes. 71% of singles have actively deleted a dating app profile entirely. And it's due to a complete loss of faith in the possibility of genuine online connection.
Okay, see, that isn't just normal user churn.
No, it's not.
You don't lose 71% of a demographic to, a competitor app because of a better interface.
Right. This is bigger than that.
That is a mass digital evacuation. People are leaving because they are spiritually and emotionally exhausted.
Completely burnt out.
And when you look at the anxiety metrics, the paranoia makes total sense. 88% of users are worried about being ghosted.
Which is almost everybody.
Basically everyone. 92% are terrified of being love bombed. And an unbelievable 94% of daters say they are operating under extreme hyper-vigilance. expressing, severe anxiety over the possibility of being gaslit by a stranger.
94%. That is wild.
You have to ask why, right?
Yeah.
If this technology was explicitly designed to connect human beings, why has it resulted in 94% of its users being terrified of psychological manipulation?
Well, it really comes down to the human brain's inability to process overwhelming, unvetted stimuli.
Like it's just too much input.
Too much input, and none of it is verified. Our sources point to three main drivers of this crisis, and the first is deceit and misrepresentation.
Oh.
I mean, lying in courtship is as old as humanity itself, obviously. We didn't just invent that.
Sure, yeah, people have always lied to get a date.
Exactly. But the digital interface provides a completely frictionless protective shield for manipulation. The technology literally acts as a buffer.
Right, because you aren't looking someone in the eye across a dinner table.
Exactly. You are typing into a void. When you remove the micro-expressions, the tone of voice, the physical presence of another human being, it massively lowers the barrier to entry for deceit.
It makes it almost feel like a video game.
Yes. It makes subtle exaggerations or even highly aggressive calculated traps feel entirely consequence-free to the perpetrator. They don't have to witness the immediate emotional fallout of their lie.
Which perfectly explains the second massive driver of this crisis, which the sources call physical proximity shifts.
This is a huge one.
It is, because think about how humans dated for thousands of years.
Yeah.
You dated someone in your village, your neighborhood, or at least, someone your friend knew.
Right, there was a network.
Exactly. If you treated them terribly, if you lied to them or used them, everyone in your social circle knew about it by Sunday.
Oh, your reputation was destroyed. You were done.
Done. But now,
Whoa.
you are matching with someone 3 zip codes away who doesn't know a single person you know.
There are absolutely no shared social circles.
None.
And this is perhaps the most destabilizing shift in modern romance, honestly. It allows people to completely compartmentalize their romantic lives.
Like putting you in a little box?
Exactly. They can keep you pocketed away from their actual reality. And what's crucial here is how the loss of that physical proximity removes all the natural, real-world accountability.
Because there's no consequences.
Right. Historically, human courtship was bound by community guardrails. The sheer volume of anonymous choices today just strips those guardrails away entirely.
It's basically the collapse of the village square.
That's a great way to put it.
And, this is exactly why I find the concept of speed mingle neighbors so utterly fascinating as a counter movement.
Oh, definitely.
We'll get into all their other concepts later in the deep dive, but they're specifically designing these high-energy local events explicitly for people in the exact same building or the exact same immediate neighborhood.
Which totally flips the script.
Right. They're actively trying to re-engineer that lost local accountability by putting you in a room with people in your actual zip code. It's turning strangers into a community where reputation actually matters again.
Which is so needed right now because without that community accountability, bad actors flourish.
They really do.
Which leads us to the third driver, the social media content culture.
Oh, this one is exhausting.
It really is. We are living in an era where deeply private romantic interactions are constantly viewed through this hyper-curated, content-driven lens.
Right, it's the fear of the screenshot.
Precisely. Daters are terrified of making a minor misstep or having an awkward moment and suddenly becoming a viral screenshot on a stranger's TikTok feed for, millions to mock.
It's everyone's worst nightmare.
It really is. So you have a landscape with no community accountability, a frictionless interface for lying, and the constant threat of public humiliation.
It's a perfect storm.
It leads the average user into a state of chronic hyper-vigilance. You are biologically stuck in fight or flight.
Constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Exactly. Which completely erodes the baseline subconscious trust required to form any genuine connection.
If I could use an analogy here, modern dating apps feel like you are being asked to walk through a live minefield.
Okay, yeah.
But you're blindfolded. And the person guiding you might be lying. And on top of all that, someone is live streaming your inevitable explosion to an audience of strangers.
Wow, that is bleak.
But it's accurate, right? It's heartbreaking when you really sit with it.
It is. And because daters feel so disconnected from those real-world consequences, the very first major behavioral shift we see in the clinical data is how people choose to leave relationships.
Because leaving is easier now.
Much easier. When the stakes are this low, the exit strategies become incredibly avoidant.
So we've established the broken ecosystem. Now let's look at the specific language of that avoidance. The psychological sources refer to this as the exit lexicon.
Right, the psychology of disappearing.
And if you're out there listening and you've been on the receiving end of these, it is so crucial to remember, and our sources highlight this, these behaviors are a metric of the perpetrator's communication deficits,
Yes.
not a metric of your worth or desirability.
That is the most important takeaway for anyone listening. The anonymity of these digital platforms actively encourages cowardice.
So let's start with the granddaddy of them all. The term, basically everyone knows at this point, ghosting.
Classic.
The sudden total disappearance, no explanation, no warning, no final argument, you just evaporate into thin air.
And the psychological consensus on ghosting is remarkably unified here. It stems from the ghoster's absolute paralyzing inability to handle discomfort and confrontation.
It's basically an emotional shortcut, right?
Exactly. Psychologically, it is far easier to just vanish than to look at someone and say, I am no longer interested.
Because that's hard.
It is hard because articulating those words requires acknowledging the other person's humanity, validating their existence, and then actively managing their negative reaction.
Which takes emotional maturity.
Which the ghoster lacks. They lack the emotional regulation required to sit with someone else's disappointment.
But, you know, the evolution of ghosting has gotten so much darker recently.
Mm-hmm.
Because now the lexicon includes something called cloaking.
Ugh, cloaking is awful.
It's brutal. This isn't just fading away after a few dates. This is the extreme, weaponized escalation of ghosting. This is when someone stands you up for a date, so they essentially no-show at the restaurant, and then they instantly block you on every single platform.
Everywhere.
Yeah, they unmatch you on the app, block your phone number, block your Instagram, before you even finish your first drink at the bar alone.
Cloaking is a profound avoidance tactic. It goes a step further than ghosting because it reflects a deep-seated fear of accountability.
They want to erase the event entirely.
Exactly. The cloaker doesn't just want to avoid the awkward conversation. They want to completely erase the reality that the interaction ever even occurred. By blocking you everywhere simultaneously, they are digitally wiping you from their existence to protect their own fragile ego from the guilt of standing you up.
It is a staggering display of emotional immaturity.
Truly staggering.
Hearing that almost makes the idea of a simple ghosting sound polite in comparison.
Almost, yeah.
But there's another exit strategy that is arguably crueler because it actually masquerades as kindness. Let's talk about fizzling, or what used to be called the slow fade.
Oh, the slow fade.
This is where they gradually reduce their effort over weeks. Their text responses get shorter. They take 12 hours to reply instead of 2. They stop asking questions about your day until the connection just kind of dies of sheer starvation.
What's fascinating about fizzling is the internal justification happening in the perpetrator's mind.
Because they think they're being nice.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. The person fizzling almost always tells themselves a story that they are being a good person. They tell themselves they are letting you down easy. They think a sudden break would be too harsh.
But that's a total lie they tell themselves.
But it's complete fabrication. Psychologically, fizzling is entirely self-serving.
Yeah.
It is designed solely to mitigate the sender's own guilt.
Because they don't want to feel like the bad guy.
Right. By not initiating a clean break, they avoid feeling like the bad guy who dumped you. But in doing so, they actively rob you of closure.
You're just left hanging.
You are left in this agonizing psychological limbo, constantly analyzing the decreasing effort, rereading texts, wondering what you did wrong to cause the shift. It actually inflicts significantly more anxiety than a clean, honest rejection.
It's death by 1,000 paper cuts.
Literally.
Which brings us to orbiting, and its terrifying cousin, being zombied.
These are so weird.
Let me use an analogy here because orbiting is such a bizarrely specific digital phenomenon. Imagine you move out of a rental house. Orbiting is like your former tenant driving his car slowly past your living room window every single day.
Oh my gosh, yes.
He doesn't want to live there anymore. He absolutely refuses to pay rent, but he is absolutely checking to make sure you haven't changed the locks or moved someone else in.
That captures the dynamic perfectly. In the digital space, orbiting means they hover on your social media.
Always watching your stories.
Always. They are consistently one of the first people to view your Instagram stories. They might even like a post occasionally, but they absolutely refuse to initiate any direct, meaningful contact or answer your messages.
Why do they do it, though? Like, if you don't want to date me, why are you watching my weekend trip to the mountains on my story? What is the point?
It's a low-effort way to maintain a perceived sense of access and control.
It's an ego trip.
Totally. It gives the orbiter a passive tether to your life without requiring a single ounce of actual emotional investment or vulnerability on their part. They just want to remain relevant in your mind.
And then, if that orbiter suddenly decides to escalate, let's say months later, you get a casual, "Hey, long time no see, how have you been?" text at 11 p.m. on a Friday.
Oh, the 11 p.m. Friday text.
Acting as if they didn't completely vanish 6 months ago.
Right, so they literally rise from the dead.
Exactly. That is being zombied, which is also sometimes referred to in the literature as submarining.
Submarining, yeah, I like that term.
Because they dive deep below the surface, disappear from the radar entirely, and then suddenly pop their periscope back up months later.
This shows a fundamental, blatant disregard for your emotional boundaries. And the digital age encourages this because the screen completely bypasses the empathy centers of the brain.
Because you aren't seeing them flinch.
Exactly. You don't have to see the confusion or the pain on someone's face when you zombie them, so the natural empathy that usually regulates polite human behavior never even activates.
Wow. So we've mapped out how these digital actors completely vanish when things get real, or how they hover on the periphery to feed their egos. But what is almost more disturbing is how they get their foot in the door in the first place.
Right, the entry tactics.
Because the digital buffer doesn't just enable cowardice on the exit, it enables aggressive manipulation right from the very first match. This is the deception directory. We're moving from small, insecure fibs to major calculated traps.
When we look at the subtle misrepresentations, we're largely seeing attempts by insecure daters to appear more compatible or attractive than they actually are.
Just fluffing the resume a bit.
Exactly. The most common baseline behavior here is kitten fishing.
Which is basically the diet version of catfishing, right?
That's a great way to put it. You aren't creating a completely fake persona with stolen photos like a full catfish, but you are heavily curating and exaggerating reality.
Like using MySpace angle photos from a decade ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're using a photo from 6 years ago when you had a different haircut or weighed less.
Right.
Or you are wildly exaggerating your lifestyle, claiming on your profile that you are an avid mountain climber because you walked up a paved hiking trail one time on a vacation in 2019.
Right. It's an insecurity-driven attempt to widen the net.
Precisely.
Now, if you're listening, this next term is one we have to approach with, like, surgical precision.
Yes, definitely.
The dating lexicon has introduced a term called woke fishing. And if you're hearing that word and immediately assuming this is a political statement or commentary on modern social movements, hold on.
Stop right there.
We have to look at this purely mechanically. Regardless of where you fall on the political spectrum, left, right, or center, we are strictly reporting on this behavioral tactic as defined by the psychological sources.
Well, they're just the messengers here. And mechanically speaking, woke fishing is a highly specific chameleon tactic.
Chameleon tactic.
It is when an individual falsely characterizes themselves as holding very progressive, liberal, or activist values solely to attract a specific mate who deeply cares about those issues.
Even if the person doesn't actually care.
Right. The perpetrator doesn't actually practice or believe them in reality at all.
So it's essentially mirroring someone's core belief system to bypass their vetting process.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. It's
Okay.
recognizing that someone has a strong moral or social boundary and artificially adopting that boundary to gain unearned trust and physical or emotional access.
Wow.
And once they have secured the relationship, the mask slips and their actual apathy or contradictory beliefs are revealed.
It's incredibly manipulative because it targets someone's deepest values, regardless of what those values are.
Right, it's about the deception, not the politic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another subtle but highly toxic manipulation in this directory is weaponizing competence. I see this talked about constantly on social media now.
Oh, this one is everywhere.
This is when a partner intentionally acts entirely helpless regarding basic adult tasks. They'll say, "Oh, I just don't know how to navigate this booking site," or "I'm so bad at organizing weekend plans. You're just so much better at it than I am."
It often looks playful or deferential on the surface.
Yeah.
They flatter you by saying you're better at it, but it is a highly calculated move.
Because they just want you to do the work.
Yes. By feigning incompetence, they successfully avoid taking on responsibilities, logistical planning, or emotional labor. They force you to step in and carry the entire executive load of the relationship.
It's a strategy to maintain their own comfort at the direct expense of your energy.
Exactly. It drains the partner.
Okay, those are the subtle, everyday deceptions. But then we cross a line into the aggressive manipulations, which are basically predatory traps at this point.
Yeah, these are much darker.
Let's spend some real time on breadcrumbing, which is sometimes called phishing. This is when someone sends you vague, generic check-ins. "Hey stranger, A random meme, an article link with zero context.
Just dropping little hints.
It's like standing at the edge of a pond and throwing in a handful of breadcrumbs just to see which fish swim up to bite. There is zero intention of actually meeting up or forming a relationship. They just want to see if you are still on the hook.
And we cannot overstate how psychologically damaging breadcrumbing is because it relies on the absolute most addictive mechanism known to neuroscience.
Oh, intermittent reinforcement.
Yes, intermittent reinforcement. Think of B.F. Skinner's famous behavioral experiments with pigeons and rats in the 1950s.
The ones with the levers and the food pellets.
Exactly. If a rat presses a lever and gets a food pellet every single time, it only presses the lever when it's hungry. It's a predictable transaction.
Makes sense.
If the rat presses the lever and never gets a food pellet, it eventually gives up and stops pressing it entirely.
Right, it just learns the lever is broken.
But if you program that lever to dispense food unpredictably, maybe on the first press, maybe on the 10th, maybe on the 40th, the rat becomes completely obsessed. It will press that lever until it collapses from exhaustion.
Because it never knows when the reward is actually coming.
Exactly.
It's literally the exact psychology of a slot machine in Vegas.
Yes, and breadcrumbing turns your smartphone into that slot machine, and it turns human validation into the jackpot.
Wow.
A random thinking of you text after 2 weeks of silence gives the recipient a massive, unexpected dopamine spike. Then the breadcrumber goes silent again.
And the recipient is just waiting.
The recipient waits, they check their phone constantly, they wonder what they did wrong, their anxiety spikes, until hating another random breadcrumb drops.
That is awful.
It is an incredibly exhausting cycle that makes it profoundly difficult for the victim to walk away because their brain is chemically addicted to the unpredictable validation.
That is deeply sinister when you break down the biology of it. But if breadcrumbing is about keeping someone starving on a slow drip, the next escalation is about drowning them.
Yes. Love bombing.
Let's talk about love bombing and future faking. Love bombing is that explosion of excessive, overwhelming affection right out of the gate. Grand gestures, constant flattery, sending you flowers at work on day 3, telling you that you are their soulmate within a week.
It's a total assault on your logical defenses.
And future faking is when, on date 2, they are already mapping out the names of your future kids, the city you are going to move to, the house you are going to buy.
Right. They paint this perfect picture instantly.
But I have to push back here, or at least play devil's advocate for the listener for a second.
Okay, go for it.
What if you just have an incredible, undeniable connection? We all grew up watching movies where people fall madly in love in 48 hours.
The rom-com dream.
Right. So where is the actual line between just being genuinely, passionately excited about someone you just met versus manipulative future faking? How do you tell the difference in real time?
That is the million-dollar question. And according to our sources, the distinction lies entirely in the pacing and the presence of boundaries.
Pacing and boundaries.
Genuine excitement, no matter how passionate, still respects reality. Authentic intimacy takes time to build because it requires the slow, often unglamorous process of learning about a person's flaws, their stress responses, and their actual day-to-day reality.
Right. You can't know that in a weekend.
Exactly. Even if I am thrilled to meet you, a healthy brain recognizes that we are still strangers.
So the manipulator intentionally ignores that reality.
Completely. A love bomber or a future faker rushes the timeline specifically to bypass your critical thinking. They aren't falling in love with you. They are establishing a cycle of control.
They want you hooked before you can think straight.
Exactly. They want to secure your deep emotional attachment before you have the time to evaluate if they are actually a safe, compatible partner. It's an artificial intensity designed to blind you.
And what happens if you try to slow them down?
That's the tell. If you try to slow a love bomber down, if you say, I'm having a great time, but let's hold off on talking about moving in together, they will usually react with anger, guilt tripping, or withdrawal.
Because you went off script.
Yes. A genuinely excited person will respect the brake pedal. A manipulator will get angry that you ruined their script.
An artificial intensity designed to blind you. That is a terrifyingly accurate way to put it.
It's scary how effective it is.
And that concept, using intense artificial emotion as a tool for extraction, brings us, inevitably, to the ultimate convergence of everything we've talked about so far.
The main event.
This is the absolute core focus of our deep dive today. This is the Speed Mingle's Dating Slang of the Week. We are talking about the ultimate digital scavengers of modern romance. We need to talk about vulturing.
Vulturing is arguably the most highly strategic, predatory shift in social behavior we've seen emerge in the digital dating landscape.
It's so calculated.
According to the investigative reports and our panel of relationship experts, a vulture is an individual who intentionally circles a target, specifically a wounded victim.
Someone who's vulnerable.
Yes, someone whose current romantic relationship is visibly failing or has just dramatically imploded.
So they are looking for the absolute lowest point in someone's emotional life.
Yes. They hover, they watch the deterioration, and they wait for the precise moment of the breakup to swoop in. But the insidious part is that they do this entirely under the guise of offering compassionate, platonic support.
Oh, that makes my skin crawl. I used the real estate analogy earlier in my notes when we were prepping, but let's flesh it out with the listener because it perfectly describes the mechanics of a vulture attack.
It's a really good analogy.
Imagine your house catches on fire. You are standing on the curb, watching everything you've built burn to the ground. You're in a state of total emotional shock.
Right?
A genuine friend shows up with a blanket and a cup of coffee and just sits with you. A vulture is the shady real estate developer who shows up with a clipboard.
Well, the house is still burning.
Exactly. They pretend to care about your loss, but what they're actually doing is waiting for the house to finish collapsing so they can convince you to sell them the lot for pennies on the dollar while you are too traumatized to know what it's actually worth.
It's the perfect analogy because the real estate developer wants financial equity and the vulture wants emotional and physical equity.
They just want to extract value.
Right. And life and relationship coach Ekta Dixit provides a brilliant framework for this. She points out that vulturing is essentially love bombing, but deployed as a specific crisis support tactic.
So it's love bombing disguised as therapy.
Exactly. The vulture provides this intense, excessive care. They become your 24/7 shoulder to cry on. They validate all your anger toward your ex. They tell you how you deserve so much better. They capitalize entirely on your rebound state.
But, how do they even know the house is burning in the first place? It's not like people put up a billboard saying, hey, my relationship is failing.
Right.
Oh, wait, actually they do. It's called social media.
Exactly. This is what the experts call the digital hover. We leave massive digital breadcrumbs about our emotional state online.
Yeah, the vague quotes.
The vague, melancholic quotes on our stories. We suddenly stop posting couple photos. We untag ourselves from past albums. We start listening to breakup anthems on a public Spotify feed.
And because of this radical digital transparency, vultures don't even have to be in your inner physical circle anymore.
No, not at all.
Like 10 years ago, a vulture had to be a coworker or a mutual friend who literally saw you crying at a party. Today, they can monitor your emotional vulnerability from 3 states away.
Just watching from the sidelines.
They just watch your Instagram stories, checking your status, waiting for that specific shift in your digital footprint so they can slide into your DMs with a perfectly timed, commiserating, hey, notice you've been quiet lately. I'm always here for you if you need to talk.
It's chilling. And this brings us to the profound psychological damage this inflicts on the victim.
Because it's not actually helpful.
No. Relationship coach Sheetal Shaparia highlights something absolutely vital for anyone who has been through a breakup. When a relationship ends, a human being requires a barren period.
A barren period. Like empty space.
You need empty space to grieve, to process the rejection, to sit in the uncomfortable silence, and to engage in deep self-reflection about what went wrong.
Because you have to actually feel the pain to heal it.
Exactly. You can't just bypass it. But by swooping in immediately with this overwhelming artificial validation, the vulture actively undermines that healing process.
They become a distraction.
They serve as an emotional anesthetic. They completely deprive the victim of their critical self-learning and reflecting curve. They stunt the personal growth and accountability that naturally must follow a romantic failure. You don't learn how to be alone because the vulture immediately filled the void.
So they are literally stealing your character development for their own ego.
That is exactly what they're doing.
That is infuriating. And I have to imagine the resulting relationship, if you actually end up dating the vulture, is incredibly unstable.
It is doomed from inception. Because the foundation is built on crisis, panic, and exploitation, vulturing almost always creates incredibly fragile trauma bonds.
Trauma bonds are so hard to break.
They are. The victim is trauma bonded to the vulture as their savior, but once the victim starts to actually heal, or once the vulture extracts the physical or emotional validation they were seeking, the vulture loses interest.
And then they bolt.
Right. The dynamic usually results in a short-lived, highly toxic cycle that ends with the vulture disappearing, leaving the victim to deal with two breakups simultaneously.
Oh, man.
They are left in a substantially worse psychological state than the original breakup.
And if you're listening to this thinking, well, that sounds like a rare sociopathic behavior, the data says otherwise.
Sadly, yes.
This is not some fringe anomaly. According to a massive 2018 survey conducted by Plenty of Fish, 20% of singles openly admitted to engaging in this behavior.
1 in 5 people.
1 in 5. And the data showed it was predominantly concentrated among 22 to 25-year-olds.
Which is the exact demographic most heavily entrenched in social media surveillance and identity formation right now.
Right. Historically, this behavior was crudely known as looking for, sloppy seconds or hovering on the rebound.
Yeah. But the digital age has weaponized it on a massive, scalable level. It is a dark reflection of how the screen separates us from our empathy, turning other human beings in pain into mere opportunities for consumption.
It's the commodification of vulnerability.
Wow, yeah.
Now, if a vulture successfully captures a target, or honestly, if daters are just aimlessly swiping through the app ecosystem without intention, they very frequently end up trapped.
In a holding pattern.
Right. If you don't get ghosted and you don't get vultured, you often end up in what I call the terms of purgatory. If we don't know how to commit, we don't know how to leave, we just hover in the middle.
And ambiguity is the absolute enemy of dating confidence. When labels, definitions, and boundaries are actively avoided, daters find themselves in these agonizing holding patterns that completely drain their emotional bandwidth.
Let's run through this purgatory lexicon real quick because it's extensive. First, the most culturally dominant one right now, the situationship.
Oh, everyone knows the situationship.
This is where you have emotional intimacy, you have romance, you have a physical connection, you might even meet their friends. But there are absolutely zero labels and zero boundaries. You are acting exactly like a committed couple, but you are completely forbidden from asking for the security of being one.
It is the illusion of freedom. The perpetrator gets all the benefits of a relationship, the companionship, the sex, the emotional support, without any of the accountability or obligation.
It's a sweet deal for them.
Yeah, not so sweet for you. Then there is benching, which is also known as cookie jarring. This is when someone explicitly keeps you as a backup plan. You are on the back burner.
How does that look in practice, though?
They will text you when their primary options fall through, or when they are bored on a Sunday afternoon. They give you just enough attention and flirtation to keep you engaged, but they will never prioritize you for a Friday night date.
So you're literally a snack.
You are essentially a comfort snack they keep in the cookie jar for a rainy day, preserved just in case they need a quick ego boost.
Brutal. Then we have paper clipping, which is objectively hilarious in its naming, but awful to experience.
I love this name.
It's named after that old Microsoft Office assistant, Clippy, you remember him, who would just randomly pop up on your screen uninvited when you were trying to write a document, offering unhelpful advice.
Always popping up when you didn't want them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Paper clipping is when someone pops up with a random text like, hey, saw this and thought of you, after weeks of absolute silence. They don't want to make plans. They don't want to see you. They just want to check if you are still available and responsive.
It is a pure ego check. They want to know that they still hold real estate in your mind.
So toxic.
Now, as we navigate this ambiguity, we must draw a very hard ethical distinction between two similar-sounding trends, roaching and roster dating.
Okay, what's the difference?
Roaching is highly unethical. The term comes from the idea that when you turn on the lights and see one cockroach, there are actually dozens hiding in the walls. Roaching is when you discover the person you've been seeing intimately is seriously dating several other people simultaneously, and they intentionally hid that fact from you to maintain access.
So it's essentially non-consensual non-monogamy.
Exactly. Roster dating, however, is the ethical practice of casually dating multiple people at once, but being completely transparent and upfront about it from day one. It is allowing everyone involved to make informed, consensual choices without deception.
Transparency is the cure there. But what about the people who just fundamentally can't commit to anyone at all?
Ah, serendipitating.
Yes, I love this analogy from the sources. It is exactly like driving around a crowded grocery store parking lot for 45 minutes, refusing to take a perfectly good open parking spot in the third row because you are utterly convinced that a spot directly next to the entrance might open up if you just keep circling.
It's the psychological manifestation of the paradox of choice. Psychologist Barry Schwartz wrote extensively about this. When humans are presented with infinite options, they don't become happier, they become paralyzed.
They just keep driving in circles.
Serendipitating is waiting endlessly for a magical, flawless, perfect match that does not exist, while completely ignoring highly compatible partners right in front of you.
And on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, we have fleabagging. Inspired by the brilliant television show, this is being stuck in a perpetual, agonizing loop of dating the exact same toxic archetype over and over again.
You know the type.
You know they are bad for you, you know exactly how it will end, but you feel completely unable to break the compulsion to pursue them.
It's a textbook trauma repetition cycle. And finally, mermaiding.
Mermaiding.
They show up, they are incredibly alluring, they sing a beautiful siren song, you are completely enchanted by the depth of the connection, and then poof, they vanish back into the ocean of no contact without a single word of explanation.
Leaving you wondering if the entire thing was a hallucination.
Exactly. So when we zoom out and look at this entire purgatory lexicon, what is the underlying thread?
I mean, it's a complete lack of humanity, honestly.
What's fascinating structurally is that all of these terms, from situationships to benching to serendipitating, reflect a profound societal fear of commitment and vulnerability. But even deeper than that, they represent a late-stage consumerist approach to human beings.
Consumerist, right?
When you have an app in your hand with millions of profiles, people subconsciously stop viewing matches as complex, multidimensional individuals. They start viewing them as commodities. Products to be tested, shelved, kept as backups, or discarded the moment they show a flaw.
Wow, yeah.
The necessary friction of real human relationships, the compromise, the difficult conversations, is completely avoided in favor of endless superficial consumption.
Okay, that is an incredibly bleak picture. If you're listening to this on your commute right now, you might be tempted to just throw your phone out the window and take a vow of silence.
Honestly, understandable.
But we promised our listeners we would arm them with tools. We need to pivot from the disease to the cure. This brings us to the authenticity antidote rebuilding confidence. With hyper-vigilance at an absolute all-time high, how do you actually fight back against a consumerist dating culture?
The first step requires a massive paradigm shift in how we approach the dating market, and it is something the platform Badoo is actively pioneering right now.
What are they doing?
Their data analysts concluded that constantly labeling every single toxic behavior, essentially what we just did for the last half hour, while necessary for awareness, is actually fueling the crisis if it's all we focus on.
It makes people too scared to date.
It makes daters incredibly paranoid and pessimistic.
Yeah.
So their commitment going forward is to stop obsessing over the red flags and start aggressively, intentionally focusing on the green flags.
I love that framework. Stop looking for the hidden knives and start looking for the solid ground. Let's look at the green flag checklist, which was developed by relationship experts Persia Lawson and Paula Lambert. They break down the anatomy of a healthy, secure partner into 5 distinct pillars.
Pillar 1.
Pillar 1, open and honest communication. Not only can they express their own feelings clearly, but crucially, they create a non-judgmental, safe environment for you to express yours without fear of retaliation.
That safety is so key. And pillar 2 is respect for boundaries.
Yeah.
This is the ultimate litmus test for empathy.
How so?
If you say no, or not right now, or I need space, they honor that limit immediately, without pouting, without punishing you, without trying to negotiate the boundary.
They just accept it.
Right. Pillar 3 is shared values and goals. This is the strongest statistical indicator of long-term compatibility. You can have the most explosive, incredible chemistry in the world, but if your core life goals, where you want to live, whether you want children, financial habits, are fundamentally opposed, the foundation will inevitably crumble.
Pillar 4 is trustworthiness and reliability.
Oh.
It sounds so basic, but it's rare. They actually do what they say they're going to do. If they say they'll call at 7, they call at 7. They show up on time. Their words and their actions perfectly align.
I love that one.
And pillar 5, which I think gets massively overlooked in the honeymoon phase, is mutual independence. You can balance togetherness without feeling suffocated. You have your own separate lives, your own friends, your own distinct hobbies, and you celebrate that separation rather than being threatened by it.
So if we know we are looking for those 5 green flags, what are the actionable, positive dating trends that actually foster them? The most effective strategy emerging right now is called hardballing.
Okay, define hardballing for us.
Hardballing means being completely unapologetically upfront and honest about your relationship goals and expectations from the very first date.
Oh, wow.
Or even before the first date. You do not play it cool. You do not pretend to be casual if you aren't. You state your intentions clearly, whether that is seeking marriage, a long-term partnership, or just casual connection, to immediately weed out the time wasters.
But I have to challenge this because I can hear listeners cringing right now.
Okay, lay it on me.
Is hardballing too aggressive for a first date? Doesn't it completely kill the romance? If you sit down with a coffee, look a stranger in the eye and say, "Hi, I'm looking for a life partner and 2 kids within 3 years. What about you?" Doesn't that absolutely terrify people and put insane pressure on a casual Tuesday night drink?
It terrifies the wrong people. And that is exactly the point of the strategy. Your pushback raises a really important question about what our culture considers romantic. We have been conditioned by media to believe that ambiguity, playing hard to get, and guessing games are romantic.
Right, the mystery.
But they aren't. They are profoundly anxiety-inducing. The psychological consensus is that clarity actually creates emotional safety. Hardballing isn't demanding the person across from you marry you right then. It's simply stating what you are looking for in your life.
Just putting your cards on the table.
When both people know exactly where they stand and what the parameters are, their nervous systems can actually relax. That relaxation and safety is the true, fertile foundation where real, lasting romance can actually take root.
That makes a lot of sense when you frame it around the nervous system. You weed out the benchers and the breadcrumbers in the first 5 minutes because they are terrified of direct communication.
Exactly.
Another highly positive trend is the sweatpants theory. This is the radical idea of completely ditching the heavily curated, filtered, hyper-perfect online persona. You embrace a low-effort, effortless authenticity.
Just be yourself.
You show up on dates as the comfortable, everyday version of yourself, metaphorically or literally like you're wearing sweatpants. Because portraying that genuine ease is inherently more attractive and sustainable than maintaining a high-anxiety performance.
And tying into that authenticity, we are seeing a massive rise in dry dating and the boy sober movement.
Boy sober, I've seen that on TikTok.
Yeah, it's huge. Dry dating is the intentional choice to go on dates entirely without alcohol. This ensures that the connection is clear-headed, genuine, and not artificially inflated by a chemical buffer. You are actually evaluating the person, not the cocktail.
Which is smart.
And boy sober is when someone takes a completely intentional cold turkey detox from the entire dating ecosystem. No apps, no talking stages, no casual hookups. It is a dedicated period to focus entirely on their own healing, baseline happiness, and self-discovery without the distraction of romantic validation.
It's pulling yourself out of the slot machine casino entirely. And finally, we have touchgrass dating and future-proofing. This is the movement of getting offline, deleting the algorithms, and going to real-world events. It's prioritizing long-term alignment over a short-term dopamine hit from a match screen.
And this is exactly where Speed Mingle's social and Speed Mingle happenings fit into the puzzle. They are creating physical environments where you can actually touch grass and meet people who have also opted out of the digital chaos.
Which leads us perfectly into the final piece of this puzzle: mindful strategy and tech defenses. Because knowing what a green flag looks like or knowing what a vulture is only half the battle.
Right.
The other half is actively managing your own mental health and physiological responses while you are out there navigating this complex market.
Exactly. You need actionable strategies to protect your peace. The first one is a biological hack that I absolutely love called reappraising anxiety.
Tell me about this.
There is a fascinating landmark 2014 psychological study by Dr. Alison Brooks at Harvard Business School. She proved that the physiological response in your body to nervousness, the racing heart, the cortisol spike, the butterflies in your stomach, the sweaty palms, is biologically identical to the physiological response of excitement.
Hey, really? This is the exact same response.
Your body literally cannot tell the difference between being terrified and being thrilled. It's called arousal congruency.
That is wild.
And the application of this is profound for dating. If you are sitting in your car before a date, panicking, trying to force yourself to calm down is almost impossible because your nervous system is in high gear.
Right, you just spiral.
But if you consciously reframe it, if you literally say out loud, I am not anxious, I'm excited, you can actually trick your brain into reappraising that high arousal energy.
Yeah.
You shift from a threat mindset to an opportunity mindset, dramatically improving your social performance and lowering your hyper-vigilance.
That's incredible. You just hijack your own nervous system.
It works.
Another critical strategy for your mental health is setting limits and taking structured holidays from the apps. You have to treat dating apps like an office job. Put an out-of-office auto-reply on your brain. Limit your swiping to a strict maximum of maybe 30 minutes or an hour a day.
Set a timer if you have to.
If you do not bound it, the app becomes a second, unpaid job that leads straight to emotional burnout. And take regular, scheduled detox holidays to heal your nervous system from negative interactions.
And while you are doing the work to manage your mindset, it's worth noting that the platforms themselves are finally beginning to implement advanced technological safeguards to protect you from the deceit we talked about earlier.
Oh, like Badoo's new feature.
Yes, Badoo recently rolled out their deception detector. This is a highly sophisticated machine learning AI model that has demonstrated 99.5% precision in identifying and automatically combating spam, financial scams, and fake accounts before you ever even see them.
99.5%. That's crazy.
It is utilizing heavy-duty technology to filter out the digital noise and bad actors so your bandwidth can be focused entirely on genuine human connection.
All right, let's bring this all home. We have covered a massive amount of ground today in this deep dive.
We really did.
We've diagnosed the systemic crisis and the collapse of the village square. We've mapped out the toxic exit lexicon, the manipulative deception directory, and we took a deep, unflinching look at the predatory nature of vulturing. We also laid out the green flag antidotes and strategies for mindful, authentic connection.
It's a lot to process.
It is. But to wrap this up, the overarching thesis is clear. Finding a partner who actually enriches your life doesn't happen by accident anymore. You cannot just passively swipe. You have to actively protect your peace, maintain intense intentionality, and deliberately choose to step into high-intent, real-world environments where people are actually held accountable.
And that intentionality is exactly what our friends at Speed Mingles are facilitating across the country.
Oh yeah, break down those concepts for us.
They have engineered specific, highly intentional modalities to cure this digital crisis, break through the screen, and bring back genuine human interaction. First, for those who prefer remote connection but want higher stakes, there is Speed Mingle anywhere.
How does that work?
This facilitates authentic, face-to-face video interactions from the safety of your own private setting, bypassing the text message limbo entirely. Then, there is Speed Mingle Social, which organizes relaxed, non-hosted weekly gatherings at established local venues specifically for spontaneous, informal, low-pressure connections.
If you are someone who hates the pressure of a sit-down interview date, there is Speed Mingle happenings. These are meticulously curated, dynamic, activity-based events. Think cooking classes, trivia nights, or hiking groups, designed to foster natural engagement so you can totally skip the awkward small talk and just see how someone behaves in the wild.
I love those.
And for community building, as we mentioned earlier, they offer Speed Mingle Neighbors. If you are exhausted by the isolation of city living and just giving your neighbors the silent elevator nod, these are high-energy events designed to turn local strangers into friends and build a real neighborhood community. No romance required, just community guardrails.
For the career-focused individuals, there is Speed Mingle B2B. This is a high-octane, round-robin networking format that eliminates unproductive, meandering conversations so you can maximize your professional circle incredibly efficiently.
Very cool.
And looking ahead to the future, launching in summer 2026, is Speed Mingle One-to-One. This will offer highly personalized, pre-vetted, low-pressure meetings designed from the ground up for foundational, green flag compatibility.
These are incredible, tangible tools to get you out of the digital purgatory. We want to actively encourage you, the listener, to stay plugged into this network and keep arming yourself with knowledge. Please subscribe to the 21st Century Dating Decoded Deep Dive on your preferred audio platform, whether that is Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen, or you can watch the full video version on Speed Mingle TV. Make sure to visit 21stcenturydatingdecoded.com for all the resources we mentioned today.
And if you found this psychological analysis helpful, please leave us a 5-star review. But more importantly, share this deep dive with a friend who is currently out there navigating this complex market.
Yes, share it.
Send this to the friend who is dealing with a vulture or stuck in a situationship, and take real actions. Step away from the screen and attend a Speed Mingle event in your area. If there isn't one nearby yet, step up and contact Speed Mingles directly to become a host or to offer an event venue in your town.
We started this deep dive talking about the murky, broken X-ray machine of modern digital dating. We spent the last hour giving you a lot of psychological tools and vocabulary to help clear that picture and protect yourself. But before we sign off, I want to leave you with one final, unscripted, provocative thought to mull over on your own.
Okay, lay it on us.
We talk about how AI tools like that deception detector are becoming incredibly powerful. as these algorithms become utterly flawless at filtering out human lies, fake profiles, and bad actors. Will future daters eventually rely entirely on algorithms to vet their partners?
Wow.
And if we reach a point where the machine tells us exactly who is safe and who isn't, are we essentially outsourcing our own human intuition, our own hard-earned gut instincts, to a string of code?
It's a fascinating and honestly slightly terrifying prospect. The technology protects us, but it might atrophy our own instincts in the process.
Exactly.
Until next time, remain deliberate, maintain your protection, and consistently date with a defined purpose.
Thank you for listening.
And watching on the new Speed Mingle TV network.